Hello, welcome back to History of Wine and the Vine. I'm Emily Kate. So this week we're going to continue with our drinking and drunkenness mega series, and we'll actually be discussing the topic of drunkenness as it appears in literature. So I have a couple of kind of big epics of literature that we'll be looking at today. And let's get started. So first we're going to start off with the Bible, and as I've described before, when historians look at religious documents and texts, we just look at them as we would anything else, which is why I generally include them just in regular old literature. So let's begin. First we have in the kind of Jewish Bible, we have the idea of Noah, and Noah is kind of known in the Jewish Bible as being the first winemaker of sorts, and after the world floods, he gets drunk and it's kind of seen as accidental, so he's not faulted for it. But then you have another example of kind of excessive drunkenness with Lot's daughters. So Lot and his daughters kind of live off in the middle of nowhere, and they think that they have to propagate the species, the girls do, because they don't see anybody else around, and they get this mistaken idea, and then they actually kind of through deceit and trickery trick their father into helping them propagate the species. So definitely that was not looked upon very well because of the trickery and deceit that was involved, which kind of leads us to understand about the kind of dividing line between drinking and just drinking to be merry, or drinking to, you know, suppress your fears, versus tricking someone and taking advantage of their inebriated state. Obviously two very different things. So next what we'll talk about is the Iliad. And in the Iliad, Homer is kind of very careful and very subtle in terms of when he addresses drunkenness. So in book 8, it's written about generally in terms of when somebody was kind of boasting about something, and it turned out that this was just a drunken boast, none of it was true. So obviously kind of taking that idea of lying and exaggeration and kind of like word, you know, talking a little bit too much when you're drunk. And then 12 books later we get Apollo, who chastises Aeneas about the threat to fight Achilles that he hasn't followed through on yet. So we have these kinds of examples. Then we move to the Odyssey, and in the Odyssey there's kind of an interesting dichotomy as well in terms of drunkenness, because on the one hand drunkenness definitely inspires courage in some of the characters, but on the other hand it also leads to military blunders. So when Odysseus and his men took the town of Chicone, Odysseus wants to leave originally, and he says, you know what, we've taken the town, we've sacked it, let's go. And the men want to stay and drink the wine and be kind of in the town, and Odysseus does protest, but when the kind of people of the town finally kind of organize and rise up against them, significant damage is done, and it's kind of wine is a big part of why they stayed, so it's definitely kind of blamed a bit on wine. Then next we have a story that comes to us from Augustine, who explained about a young lady named Monica, who in her family she was kind of given responsibilities within the house, and one of those was fetching wine for the adults. And she would go down into the cellar, and each time that she would fetch the wine, she would take it kind of with like a cup or a ladle, and she would just drink a little bit of it, and she got kind of greedier and greedier and greedier. And then kind of a servant saw her and called her a Mary Bibula, which means like a drunk, and the shame of this cured her of her illness, and she lived the rest of her life as the soul of sobriety. So hopefully these were some interesting stories that we found throughout literature to discuss drinking and drunkenness in the ancient world. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, click the like button, the little thumbs up below, and subscribe for more lectures, because we'll have a lot more where these came from. Okay, I'll see you next week. Cheers!